Hi guys, I'm Adam Wilborn from WhatCulture.
And I'm Andy Murray from WhatCulture.
And don't forget, you can get the news as a podcast if you're out and about by searching for WhatCulture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. But coming up today, Dave Meltzer apologises to Seth Rollins.
NXT versus the main roster is a critical hit, but not a ratings hit.
The real reason Alexa Bliss hasn't been on our screens recently.
Will Katsuyori Shibata wrestle in the Tokyo Dome?
And will Velveteen Dream be a part of Survivor Series? This is the news.
We're going to start things off with Chief Keith, Ben Roy Turner's favourite wrestler of all time, Randy Orton. So, Randy's been a bit of a scamp, as always, over the past few weeks. He's been teasing, he's been trolling, he's been cracking jokes, he's been bantering people off left, right and centre because that's what he does and he's one of the best in the business at it. But the theme of this, there have been loads of suggestions that he might be considering leaving WWE. He's been trolling AEW. There's been talk that his contract expires next year, but guess what? That is not the case. Yeah. Randy Orton has signed a new 5-year contract with WWE. This was first reported by PW Insider yesterday. They noted a multi-year deal, and then Chief Keith himself tweeted out later in the day saying the 3 most dangerous letters in sports entertainment. RKO just re-signed with the 3 most dominant letters in sports entertainment, WWE. Looking forward to pissing off the WWE universe for at least 5 more years. Now, I don't really think anyone. We said this when we reported the stories about him trolling and the contract expiry. You know, Randy Orton was always likely to stick around, while the possibility that maybe he was just a bit bored with life in WWE after so long was, quite believable. This always looked likely. He's a company man. He's a 13-time world champion. He is a surefire Hall of Famer. He gets a nice little easy schedule off him. He probably gets paid millions and millions of dollars to do arrest, hold, and 20 RKOs a year. Great stuff. I don't always enjoy his work, but I respect the man's approach to work so much.
Exactly. I mean, it would be stupid if you, did a podcast or a round table or something like that suggesting other people could be following out the door and who else should follow his lead in going to AEW. Who'd do something like that? Me. But yes, it was always kind of on the cards, like you say. I don't really know how I feel about it, if I'm perfectly honest, because the RKO still pops me today, but everything else boils my piss.
He's one of the smartest men in wrestling. He worked out from a very early stage in his career that he could just build his matches primarily around RKO pops. He doesn't have to go out there and kill himself. He can conserve energy, he can preserve his body, he can have a long, successful career as a result of this. And hey, his matches aren't always to my taste. A lot of the time, I cannot stand them. But his approach is really admirable because he's able to have this high level of career this late into his run. It's good stuff. And, WWE probably is the best place for his work.
Oh, yeah, unquestionably. And for me, the only thing I hope that's changed in that contract negotiation, aside from getting loads more money probably, is the fact they can maybe bring back that showering pyro when he used to. Oh, I used to love that. Yeah. Bring that back, Randy.
Do that now.
And maybe you'll be okay in our eyes. Speaking of being okay in people's eyes, Dave Meltzer has issued an apology to Seth Rollins, which I'm sure we will never hear the end of. You may remember we reported yesterday that Dave Meltzer had claimed that Seth Rollins spoke up with that big meeting before Raw where they explained the situation around Crown Jewel and the fact that I promise you, I was having plane troubles. Anyway, rah-rah speech and all that, but Dave Meltzer has issued a full retraction of that story in a statement published on Figure 4 Online. He said, "It is our policy in our newsletters and on our podcast to correct mistakes as soon as possible and to always clarify if there are misunderstandings." Now, as much as, he's going to get skewered for this because Seth's just going to shoot on him all the live long day, as David Bixenspan pointed out, it's not like Dave Meltzer just invented this out of nowhere. He's not WrestleVotes. So what do you think about this?
Yeah, I share your thoughts on this, completely. The thing, like we said yesterday, you've got to apply a bit of critical thinking with things like this. When stories like this come out, you've got to look at them as objectively as you possibly can, not take anything for gospel, and try and make up your own mind. Try and weigh up both sides of the argument. We always say that. Don't take Dave Meltzer's word for gospel, but don't take a wrestler's word for gospel either. Now, what has happened here is that Dave has obviously been misled by one of his sources. He's been fed incorrect information, misinformation, as Seth puts it. Seth issued a statement to Fightful that was along similar lines. He's tweeted about it. But the suggestion that Dave Meltzer just lied and made this thing up, like Dave sitting in his office and went, I know I'll get clicks, is complete and utter nonsense. And I think David Bixenspan, who's one of the best in his field and excellent at his job, tweeted out about this last night, and he put it very well. I'm just going to read to you a series of stuff that he put out that sums the situation up nicely. Seems like a good time to say this between the Rollins tweet and people relitigating the Sasha Banks thing over Ryan Satin getting hired by FS1. They don't make anything up. Can they be misled by sources? Yes, but they'd be huge idiots in their positions to risk defamation suits. You're welcome to think they're idiots, but Dave owns his business. I have no idea if he has a publisher's insurance, but even with as well as he does, a defamation suit would be devastating. They're not going to make up. While legal fees just to defend yourself are damaging on their own, a judgment would be even worse. In the US, media covering public figures are allowed to get stuff wrong. They lose if they deliberately lied or didn't care if it's true.
And if you were going to make something up, you wouldn't make up Seth Rollins did a bit of a rah-rah speech backstage on Raw.
Yeah.
I'd say things like, he said, I'm going to show you how you burn it down, and set fire to half the plane in Crown Jewel, which is why they couldn't fly, or he curb stomped Vince McMahon, or something like that. It's a bit of a crap lie to make up, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, Dave, no, it absolutely is. But like, I think if you're sitting there at home going, "Hey, you just made this up," you don't understand.
Like Seth Rollins.
Yeah, you don't understand how Dave's process works. And look, we're not journalists. We don't call ourselves journalists. We have never done that, and we never will, because that's not our jobs. But you kind of have to tighten up your knowledge of these things before you go. And I know it's fun to dunk on Dave because he's kind of this weird old man who doesn't quite understand how social media works and quote tweets these dummies with 2 followers who are blatantly trolling him and stuff. He got this wrong. He absolutely got this wrong. But, made it up. I'm not so convinced.
As a certain someone pointed out on social media, the build to this Rollins Meltzer Survivor Series match is incredible.
Shout out to our former brother. Shall we move on?
Yeah.
Next story of the day, the Raw viewership. It's in, the numbers are in, Showbuzz Daily coming through. This week's Raw average viewership was actually up a tiny little bit. Last week, 2.13 million. This week, 2.14 million.
Yes!
Pretty much the same thing. However, what's quite worrying about this week's episode is we saw a pretty colossal drop-off from hour 1 to hour 2 to hour 3. Now, there's a drop-off every week. That's nothing new, but this one is a lot steeper than usual. And remember, this was for the Adam Cole versus Seth Rollins main event. So hour 1, 2.36 million. Hour 2, 2.21. Hour 3, 1.85. That's a big drop off. It's one of the lowest hour 3 totals in Raw history. And while it would be kind of, naive to sit here and go, it's entirely the fault of Seth Rollins.
It's entirely the fault of Seth Rollins.
You'd imagine that's got to be part of it, right? I mean, people did not stick around to watch that match.
No, and it's Seth Rollins' fault. Because Adam Cole's great, and what they did on that show, it was one of my favourite Raws in quite some time, that. So it's frustrating for a fan like me to sit there and see something like that happen, because I was like, this is the kind of show I want to watch every week. But with those figures, Vince will go, God damn it, pal, we need some legends.
Oh, pal. Yeah, it's a weird little one because like the quality of the show consensus is it was very high, and the match itself was really good. Obviously, it had a bit of a screwy finish with 400 interferences and stuff, but you couldn't have known that. Well, I mean, you could probably guess that something like that was going to happen, but at the same time, as friend of the channel, Brian Alvarez put on Twitter last night, I think he's deleted since then, I'm sure Seth Rollins will find a way to make this look like Dave Meltzer's fault.
Right, let's move on and talk about Alexa Bliss, in case you're wondering why she hasn't been on our screens since she dropped the Women's Tag Team Championships alongside Nikki Cross to the Kabuki Warriors at Hell in a Cell. That was 6th of October. We haven't seen her since, but as you would probably expect, due to an injury to Alexa Bliss, PW Insider are reporting that she's currently dealing with an undisclosed shoulder injury. I don't know why. I don't know which shoulder it is, but anyway, there is no word on the problem severity or how long she'll be out for at present. I don't want to sound harsh here, but they don't necessarily need her back prior to Survivor Series, do they? They've got lots of exciting stuff going on. Obviously, that triple threat with the champions at Survivor Series is going to be spectacular. And again, as always, if she takes some time off and comes back around Royal Rumble season, that's great for me.
Yeah, no, I think this is it's obviously a shame that Alexa's injured again, because she's had a lot of these problems over the past years. Not that I'm going to sit here and say that these things are related or call her injury prone and stuff like that, because like those are statements that shouldn't be thrown around unless you're Alexa Bliss's doctor and you know that these things are related together. It's just a shame that she's off TV, but it's not a terrible time for her to be missing. As you've said, Nikki's done all right on her own. She had that title match with Bayley. She's kind of over with the crowd.
Yeah.
They'll come back together and we will get the continuation of what has been a very good story between the two.
Get well soon, Alexa, and enjoy your time off with that pig.
He's a unit. Have you seen the size of that pig?
Jesus.
It's just an absolute horse of a thing. I remember when she got it, and it was this cute little, like, tiny thing you can fit in the palm of your hand.
Did you get done? Was it one of those things where, yeah, it's definitely a micro pig?
Yeah.
Boom.
And now it's literally bigger than 2 me's. Anyway, speaking of people who are maybe getting there, Katsuyori Shibata at New Japan Pro Wrestling suffered a horrendous injury in his 2017 IWGP Heavyweight title match with Kazuchika Okada. Maybe one of the best matches of the modern era, but disastrous consequences. There was a risk coming out of that due to head trauma sustained in that match and throughout the course of his career. He's a very hard-hitting wrestler, after all. Shibata, there was a risk he might pass away. It was a very severe situation. It was awful. He's since come back. He's been working in the LA dojo. He's the head trainer there. But recently we've seen him take bumps on shows. I mean, he got involved in a physical angle with Kenta for the heel turn a few months ago, and just a power struggle at the weekend. He got his head kicked in by Kenta several times. This has all led to speculation that he might be coming back to wrestle the former Hideo Itami at the Tokyo Dome for Wrestle Kingdom coming up in January. And now Dave Meltzer is reporting on Wrestling Observer Radio that Shibata has formally asked for medical clearance from New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Ooh, yeah, that's the noise of Michael Sidgwick exploding round the corner.
Yeah, somebody get them up for a cleanup. This is a very big situation, obviously, with what happened to Shibata, with the severity of the injury. There's a lot to unpack. But we're not going to sit here and pretend to be doctors. I mean, the medical staff are the people who know best. They know what his body can do, what he can and can't do, if he's physically capable, if he can stand up. To imagine, if they say it's okay, I'm fine with it. And I'm not at all biased because he's one of my favourite wrestlers ever.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those where you sense that, once again, it wouldn't be cleared. They're very, very tight on that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And judging by how you and Michael Sidgwick and Michael Hamplett and all the people who actually know about this sort of thing have been speaking about it in the office, it could be phenomenal for him to come back, but only as and when he's ready. But that feud with Kenta could be amazing.
It's hotter than the surface of the sun, and I tell you what, if New Japan have done all these angles without knowing that he can compete and without a payoff, that's a worse bait and switch than anything WWE have done all year, and we will criticise them for that. Bias.
Right, let's move on to the final news story of the day, and the Velveteen Dream. A lot of speculation as to whether or not he will be involved in all this Survivor Series NXT shenanigans. It doesn't look like that is going to be the case. We last saw him on the 18th of September on NXT, where he lost the North American Championship to Roderick Strong, of course. Subsequent weeks after that, they had that bit where they jumped him backstage, and it was reported that he was injured following that North American Championship match on a show that basically kind of puts out bollocks.
It's a whack to,
yeah, he's injured. But he wasn't injured. But in reality, he is actually injured. Per Dave Meltzer on a recent Wrestling Observer Radio, the Dream is still hurt and isn't expected to return before Survivor Series, but expect him back hopefully before the end of the year, fingers crossed.
Yeah, that'd be good to see. I mean, when you see these little injury reports on the WWE Now thing, you kind of think, this is so worked. It's so phony, the presentation and stuff. It's a cool little touch that adds a dose of realism, but it, comes off as a work. However, this is legitimate, so best wishes to Velveteen Dream in his recovery. I think he has been missed. NXT doesn't have anyone nearly as this isn't an insult to the rest of the roster, but NXT doesn't have anyone nearly as charismatic as him. I think he's one of the 5 most charismatic people in pro wrestling, period. Any show is going to kind of feel like it's missing something when he's gone, so let's get him back.
Let's move on to your Twitter questions then, at WhatCulture WWE, if you want to get in touch. First question today comes from Sharon, I have no idea, I hope I've got that right, who says, do you think Randy deserves to break Ric Flair's record? He's put his body on on the line through dangerous situations more than Ric Flair or any other. While John Cena comes and goes, Randy is still there.
No, I don't think he deserves to break the record. I don't believe in awarding people, like, I don't believe in giving people, like, titles and records and stuff purely because they've been loyal and they've been there a long time and they've worked very hard and all these other things. I don't think that's how it should work. I think that the person who holds the top title should be the hottest star in the promotion at that given time. That's not always how it works in WWE, but if I had the pencil, if I had the book, and I don't obviously, I wouldn't give him that record. I don't think, like, legacy-wise, even though he has a lot of reigns and I have a lot of respect for his approach to wrestling, I don't think he really deserves to be down as the guy who usurped Ric Flair. Now, I get the Cena counter-arguments, I totally get those, but it's Ric Flair, man.
Yeah.
He's the greatest American wrestler of all time.
I think you could make a stronger argument for Cena to overtake him. I was genuinely surprised when I realised how close Randy Orton was to breaking that record. And like you mentioned, that legacy team with Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase was rubbish. So
yeah, Manu was in that as well, remember?
No.
Ben Roy's other favourite wrestler.
Furious around the corner. Nate gives us our second question today. He says, should Survivor Series have a Battle Royal match so the lower/mid-card guys have a chance to be on the show like the Survivor Series 2001 Immunity Battle Royal?
Hell yeah, I love Battle Royals. Just give me a Battle Royal, but book it well, please, because bad ones are really bad.
Yeah, I think just do it very simply. 30 men, 10 from each show, and the winner gets to pick a championship they can challenge for. Preferably a mid-card championship, obviously, but give them some stakes.
Give them some juice.
And not the, Otis sort of stakes. Right, final question today comes from Bobby Martinez, who says, with the, let's say, mixed results of pushing Cena, Roman, and Seth as top babyfaces, can WWE produce a face fans won't end up rejecting? What would it take, and who would you choose for that role?
Becky Lynch. They've done it already. No, I totally get this. Like, the failure of the top male babyface in the promotion over the past decade really has been catastrophic, and it's transcended multiple wrestlers. They just can't get it right. They don't know what they're doing. With Cena and Reigns, it was obviously the old Superman, Hulk Hogan style presentation. With Seth, there's definitely elements of that, but it has been a little bit different. Although I would say Seth's failings come more from certain other aspects of his presentation, like his inability to cut a promo without sounding like a complete and utter dork. It's a role that they clearly struggle with. Yes, I don't know if it's going to be impossible to build someone up like that again, because we've seen with Becky in the women's division that it can be done and the popularity can be sustained without a level of backlash, even when she has kind of uninspiring opposition like Lacey Evans for 3 months on end. But man, it's an uphill struggle, and really I don't know who the person that you would slot into that role in the company is.
I think they could do something with Roman. There's a lot of good feeling around it now. I think if he won this year's or next year's Royal Rumble, I don't think many people would complain. You could build him up, but I'd be worried about how they would go about doing that. So I'm just going to say, have Daniel Bryan win the Royal Rumble, and then just let him cut his own promos, because he's great.
It's Daniel Bryan, there's your answer. Like, how can I forget Daniel Bryan, man?
Or Big E. Because speaking of Big E, he's features for today's And Finally, who sent out a brilliant tweet just a few hours ago centering around WWE Backstage. New show, which is actually quite good, well worth checking out. And he simply tweeted, "When is the Feat of the Week segment, I promise?"
Oh, wow. Okay, good, yes.
And there was gifs of him getting rather involved, let's say, with Renee Young's feet. We got a new Gene Snitsky on our hands, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, we certainly do. Let's hope he doesn't go punting any babies. Oh, that would be bad.
Who do you think's got the sexiest feet here at WhatCulture?
Adam Nicholas has got the sexiest.
Oh, yeah.
Default answer.
Let us know. Every member of the WhatCulture office's feet rank from worst to best in the comment section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from, for daily wrestling podcasts. Plus, you can let us know your thoughts on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE and send us Twitter questions. And follow both of us. You can follow him at
Andy H. Murray. The H stands for have, as in I've acquired a very particular set of skills. Skills acquired throughout a very long
We haven't got time to do the whole
skills
thing.
Skills that make me a knight.
But you can follow me at Adam Wilborn. We'll do our own separate video of you doing the entire speech we've taken. Follow me at Adam Wilborn and follow us all at WhatCulture WWE. Right, thanks to Andy Murray. Thank you for watching, and we will see you soon.
Just really love Taken.
Tommy Taken.
Tommy Taken.